remember I worked a game one time with Jerry Rice when he first started in the NFL, his first game, and Joe threw a pass to him in the end zone, and he dropped the pass. First game in San Francisco's Candlestick Park, and Jerry Rice drops the ball, and we got back to huddle. Joe reached over and just patted him on the back and said, "Don't worry, you'll catch the next one, Jerry." So building people up like that, watching examples like that, really was an inspiration for me in terms of how I perform my life.
Have you ever heard the phrase becoming the best version of yourself? Yeah, me too. But what does that even mean, and how do we become that person? I'm here to help you navigate through those questions and come up with actionable steps in order for you to live your best life. We've got to discover what we want. We've got to figure out a plan on how to get there, and then we have to go. We can't just sit and wait any longer. Life won't wait on us. So come join me on this constant journey to become the best version of yourself and to find your best you. I'll see you on the other side. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nick Carrier's Best You podcast. I'm super excited today with this interview that I have with the Dean of NFL Referees, Jim Tunney. Appreciate you joining me today, Jim.
Nick, it's my pleasure. Thanks for being here. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. So to give everybody a little bit of context, you were an NFL referee for 31 years. You're the only referee to have worked consecutive Super Bowls back to back, and you have a lot of other things, obviously, that have gone on in your life as well. You're a decorated motivational speaker. You've worked in a lot of different schools as the head of the schools, principals, and all that good stuff, and countless of other things. So I'm excited to dive into a lot of it, but especially some of the speaking stuff and especially some of your experiences as an NFL referee. So the way I want to start today is to give everybody a little bit of background of you, and for myself is, how did you get into being an NFL referee?
I never thought I would do that, but my dad was a referee. And so I would go to games when I'm 5 and 6 years of age and sit on the bench with the players and all that. And I enjoyed that. But I never thought when I grew up and got out of college that I would do that. But when I was in college, while they needed intramural referees, they weren't paying anything. But I thought, oh, that's a good idea. I'll try that. And then when I started working in the school system and they were playing high school officials, I was making $12.50 a game in those days. They're paying about $75 now, but so I loved it. I would work on maybe Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, Saturday night, whatever. Make 2 or 3 games. I made $37.50 a weekend. I thought, gee, that was really good money in those days. And it was a supplemental to my teaching, so it really worked out fine for me.
Gotcha. So it sounds like your dad was a pretty big role model for you growing up and stuff like that. Is that right?
My dad was my hero, my mentor, my role model. He did a lot of great things. He died early, unfortunately, of a heart attack. But he was a very, very, very inspirational for me. As was my mom. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but she raised 4 kids. And Dad was, besides being a teacher and a coach, he was also a playground director. And he had weekend. He was gone 2 or 3 jobs all the time. So my mom really raised us, and my dad was my inspiration for doing all the things I did, because I followed in his footsteps in his high school teaching and coaching, as well as the officiating.
Right. Yeah. So you followed right in his footsteps. Do you think? Obviously, he taught you a ton of things probably growing up. But is there any maybe 1 or 2 lessons that you always kind of went back to that he taught you at an early age?
He was never one to say, this is lesson number 1, follow this. He did it by example. I remember sitting on the bench in the Rose Bowl one time, and Pasadena Junior College was playing, and he came over and he said, now you watch this little kid, he's really good. It was Jackie Robinson, and I was sitting right next to Jackie Robinson. So lessons like that, being able to see great players in action and watch their attitude as well as their physical abilities. He pointed a lot of things out like that to me. And when officiating, I would watch him, what he would do, and I would say, well, why did you do that, or why did you do this? And he'd explain it to me. And those lessons stuck with me forever.
Well, let's get right into it then. I wasn't going to go that early, but in terms of, you've seen so many great athletes over the years perform at the highest level. What are some of the common traits that you see, and then in terms of their attitude, because that's what one of the things you just said. What are some of the common things that some of the greatest athletes have in terms of having the right attitude towards the game?
When I first started in 1960, Jim Brown was playing for the Cleveland Browns. And I watched Jim Brown. I was a field judge, so it means I'm downfield 25 yards. So I would see Jim Brown come through the line of scrimmage, knock down the linebacker, and then run towards me and towards the goal line. And I think I noticed about him when he got tackled, he never complained. He was never a guy who was a trash talker or a complainer. And I like that about Jim Brown. I like that about a lot of athletes that I've seen. I work for people like Joe Montana and Steve Young and people like that, and watch their performance on the field in terms of who they were, not as a football player, but as an individual, as how their attitude was, how they work with their teammates. I remember I worked a game one time with Jerry Rice when he first started in the NFL, his first game, and Joe threw a pass to him in the end zone, and he dropped the pass. First game in San Francisco's Candlestick Park, and Jerry Rice drops the ball, and we got back to huddle. Joe reached over and just patted him on the back and said, "Don't worry, you'll catch the next one, Jerry." So building people up like that, watching examples like that, really was an inspiration for me in terms of how I perform my life. These were top athletes and under a great pressure, and they're performing at a high level of integrity.
Yeah. So you had to perform under pressure throughout your career because you had some of these biggest games that you called, and you've seen so many other people, some of these athletes perform under pressure. What do you think are some of the key things to perform under pressure at a high level?
I think one of the biggest things is keeping a smile on your face and enjoying what you're doing. And I always had fun on the field. In fact, in the crew, and I was a referee, so that means I was in charge of the crew. I was the crew chief. And I would always say to the guys before we went on the field, we always got our hands together as a team, and I would say, let's have fun today. Because it's a game. We need to have fun. It's serious, and it's a business, and somebody's going to win or lose. Somebody's going to maybe lose their job. You don't want that to happen. But you can see the guys in their attitude of how they treat the players and how they deal with the players. Now, players and coaches are going to get upset with you with the calls that you make or maybe calls you don't make. And they're going to yell and scream at you and call you names and things like that. But we keep a smile on our face and say, deal with it properly, deal with it a lot of poise and a lot of confidence. And that was the thing that I enjoyed doing every Sunday afternoon.
So how do you deal with like so much of the negative? Because like as a referee, you probably get some like maybe praise from some people, but like most of it is negative feedback and a lot of heckling. So how do you deal with that like internally when people just get on you like that?
It's important that I have what I have is called personal power, not position power, not the fact that you're the referee and you're in charge and you better pay attention to me, but the fact that you deal with them face to face, eyeball to eyeball. I've gone over to coaches like John Madden or Don Shula or Vince Lombardi or Tom Landry and just talk to them face to face as human beings. And they may be screaming and yelling at me. And finally, after a while, if they're not listening, I'll just say, "That's enough, coach," and just walk away. But it's important that you deal with them face to face and listen to them. Don't just ignore them, but listen to them. Listen to their complaint and explain what you're doing. And if they don't like it, well, that's too bad. But you do the best thing and you do the right thing every time.
I really like that. I've never heard it phrased like that, personal power instead of positional power. I think that's really cool because I think probably, maybe people who are referees, but then just people in regular everyday life, sometimes if they would take that approach of personal power and just kind of realizing that the other person is just a human being, it kind of like humanizes them if they're somebody who, if somebody's talking to a boss, if you think like personal power instead of positional power, you kind of talk to them in an instance on the same level, and you might not be intimidated as much by them.
And that's, as a crew chief now, you see, I had to teach that, and I did teach that to the other members of our crew. When I first started, there were only 5 officials on the field. Now there are 7, and when I finished, there were 7 on the field. And I would help our rest of our crew understand that it's a personal power, and don't get too upset about it. One of the fellows that I worked with for 11 years, a guy named Burl Toller. Burl was a very outstanding athlete at the University of San Francisco, and he was the first African American official we had on the field. And he and I were in the same crew for 11 years. And in those days, in the 60s, the black officials were not well recognized, and people would scream and call them names, and they would call them racial names. And I went over and stood alongside of Burl when those names were being called and watched him, and I just said, Burl, just keep your head up. Just keep your head up. It's okay. Shake it off. And Burl handled it so well. He just dealt with it. He had a good smile on his face, and he was a jolly type of a guy. So he had that personal power too. And that's the thing that he learned in dealing with all of the racial epithets that they were yelling at him. But he handled it very well. And I was proud to have an opportunity to work with Burl for 11 years. We were together every weekend for 11 years. And watch him develop and handle things like that. And that's happened to a lot of the crew. I was fortunate enough to be a referee for 25 of those 31 years. So I could have a lot of people that came in our crew and went to another crew from there or something, but having an opportunity with them and help them learn that personal power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. So you already touched on how, that one experience when Joe Montana let Jerry Rice know, like, it's okay, you're going to catch the next one. You've talked about some of the relationships that you've had with different referees on your team and stuff like that. So team building is something that you talk a lot about and you've seen a lot. What is one of the most important things in trying to build that strong team relationship with other individuals?
That was very important for me. I do a lot of speaking for businesses and groups about building teams. And I have a bookmark that says, together, everyone accomplishes more. TEAM, together, everyone accomplishes more. And I learned a long time ago, because my father was my first mentor, I needed mentors. I'm not smart enough to learn it all by myself. So I needed people to do things that I respected. When I was a kid, even I would watch teachers and doing things in the classroom. Do I like that or don't I like that? Is a good teacher, not a good teacher? And I kind of called out ways that I thought you should be able to teach. And I did the same thing with officiating. I had a lot of great mentors, officials who were names you've never heard of, who were mentors of mine, who I watched their performance and then asked them questions or just maybe learn from but watch it's not about them. It's about bringing it together. I use the hand as a team expression. Your 5 fingers are very important to you, but when you bring them together, it's a fist, and that fist is stronger than any one of those fingers. And so as a team, that's the way I would teach our crew that we're together as a team. Never throw one of the officials under the bus. Don't ever. People are going to make mistakes. Yes, I've made a lot of them, and and I learned a lot from that. So when the official make a mistake, I just say it's okay, shake it off. You'll get the next one right and go on from there. But it's important to build people up. I don't think you help people be part of the team by tearing them down. You help people by building them up. And sure they're going to make mistakes and they're going to do different things and the wrong thing, but they'll correct it. Nobody wants to do the wrong thing intentionally. They want to do the right thing, but it doesn't come out right that sometimes. So you got to help them learn from that. So build people's confidence instead of tearing people down.
Yeah, I like that. You talking about how you are constantly learning from people, trying to take in as much information, because you're not going to be able to learn it all yourself, right? You got to have mentors. You got to have the people around you who have experienced things before you and be able to take knowledge from them and learn from their experiences. And kind of how I want to transition from there is, you were an NFL referee, like I said, 25 of those 31 years. I'm sure the game evolved and changed a bunch over those years. So talk a little bit about the importance of continually learning and adapting to different situations that you're in.
Let's take instant replay, for example. When I first started, we didn't have instant replay. In fact, in the 60s, when I was officiating, we didn't even have much film. We would see film maybe in the later, I think in 1967, we started looking at our own games on reel-to-reel film. how we can get better looking at ourselves. So every Saturday when we'd have our meeting before the Sunday game, we'd look at film and watch ourselves on film. I say to people, I would like to have a camera following around all day, watch what you do, and then your supervisor look at that film at the end of the day and criticize what you've done or correct what you've done. And so videotape was a very big thing in helping us. That's something we had to adjust to. When instant replay first came in, actually instant replay started in 1986, and a lot of people were opposed to it. And I said, no, I think it's a good thing. I think we want to get the play right. We don't want to go home on Sunday afternoon and have the mistake that we made cost a player a score or a game or something like that. So let's use replay to see how we can get the play right. Now, I must say, from those years now, from 1986 to now, the replay has expanded tremendously, and it's maybe being overused a little bit now. As an official, those things happen to me all the time. They change rules from time to time, and as they change rules, some of them I didn't like. Some that, for example, I was giving a rules talk to the Seattle Seahawks when they first started. Jack Patera was the coach. And one time as an official, as a player, you had to put your arms against your shoulders and block with your shoulders. And Jack Patera said, "We can't block Lawrence Taylor like that. He's too strong. We've got to use our hands. We've got to be able to push." I said, "Jack, that's foreign to football. You can't do that." Well, look at the players today. They push all the time. You've got to be able to do that. So as an official, you have to learn to adjust the way the game is played and the size of the players and different players. The way they have adjusted themselves and the way they're playing the game now, you as an official have to adjust to it. You might not agree with all the rules, but you've got to adjust the rules the way they're written, and that's our job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's really important to be able to adapt and be as flexible as you can to whatever it is, because like you said, you don't have control over it. So we've already mentioned a number of times how long your career was and how much sustained excellence and sustained success that you had. What do you think is kind of like the secret to that your career longevity, to having that sustained excellence over so many years?
I wrote first book I wrote was called Impartial Judgment, meaning I don't care who wins. And I wrote in that book, you're only as good as your next call. When I walk on the field on Sunday afternoon, people could care less how many Super Bowls I had, how much reputation I had, what people thought of me in the past. You have to be good every Sunday afternoon. So you gear yourself to that and go into that game thinking, I'm going to do the right thing. I can't rely on my reputation. I can't rely on anything else but except of what I'm going to be able to do that Sunday afternoon with that player at that time. And you have to be sharp every minute. It's like any player or any coach. You've got to be the best you can all the time. You can't ease up and say, oh, well, I'll just coast through this game. You can't do that. As an official, you wouldn't last very long. So I use the expression, you're only good as your next call. So always look for something, how you can do something better. I would watch other officials and see the things they were doing and think, that guy's doing this. I like that. I'll do it. I can adjust to that. I can make my mechanics the way that person is doing it. And so it's good to watch other officials. And I carried that over, by the way, Nick, into the school business. When on Sunday afternoon, I was on the football field. Monday through Friday, I was in the school business. I was a high school principal. And so I would carry that same teamwork thing to our teachers of how we can be better together as a teacher. And so the principalships that I had, I really enjoyed being a principal because I was working with maybe 150 teachers every week, and how they can help each other. So it was important for me to utilize the things that I would learn in football for my school business, or in my school business. For example, when I was a high school principal at a place called Fairfax High School in West Hollywood, I was assigned there from an East LA school, and I have an athletic background, but they were a very academic school. And I wasn't coming from an academic background, much as I'm coming from an athletic background. But I worked with each one of them. they weren't always on my side. So how do I get people on my side? I imagine it as a merry-go-round. You go around the merry-go-round, you reach out and you grab that gold ring. Well, every time I'd grab this teacher, and that teacher would be on my side, then this one and that one. And again, building a team was what it's all about. So the thing on Sunday afternoon helped me in my school business Monday through Friday. The things on Monday through Friday helped me in my school, helped me on refereeing. So it was a good combination. And a lot of our officials have been teachers and principals and people like that. Not so many businessmen. It's more businessmen now, but at one time it was just mostly teachers that really helped me compare the two jobs.
Yeah, I like that a lot. To go back on what you were talking about in terms of like your sustained excellence, it sounded like to me what I was hearing was not necessarily, you can't be complacent with the success that you've had in the past. You have to always realize it's a new day and that you've got to make sure that you perform today to the best of your ability and not let yourself be complacent with what you've done in the past.
Exactly. What have you done for me today? And that's all I think. How can I be better today than I was? In fact, when I walked off the field, I worked over 500 NFL games. And I can remember every time I walked off the field, I said to myself, did I leave this game better than I found it? And so it helped me in the school business too. When I would go home at night from the school business, did I do the best job I can for the students and the teachers? Did I leave that school better than I found it when I walked in the morning? So that was always my goal. How do you get better at what you do? And just keep improving. And don't let it drive you crazy. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. Schools ought to be fun. In fact, I wrote a speech one time called "Every Kid a Winner." If we could have a school where every kid got all A's, that'd be great. Every one of them, because that's what they want to do. The kid doesn't want to get a D or an F. He wants to get an A. So how can we get that kid? When the kid didn't get an A, I thought to myself, what can I have done better to make sure that person got the best grade they possibly could get?
I like that. I like that. I'm always interested in learning about leadership, and I know you know a lot about leadership, talked a lot about leadership. You were a leader in the school and on the field, and you're around a bunch of leaders. So how do you, as a leader, enroll other people like in your vision or in your goals? Because like as a team, maybe some people don't always agree with like the quarterback and the game plan that they have. As a high school principal, maybe all the teachers don't agree. Like you said, they're not always on your side. How as a leader do you, in a sense, enroll people in your vision and kind of get them behind you?
When I saw that a teacher or an official on the field needed help or wasn't being successful in what he or she did, I would go to him and say, how can we do this better? It was always a we approach. How can we do this better? What can I do to help you become better? Wouldn't you like to do this a little better? If you'd like to do better, if you don't have the answer, maybe the two of us, between you and me, we could figure out an answer for you to do this better. So it was important that we did it together and make them feel that, hey, I made that mistake too, and we can learn from this. If you can learn from your mistakes, you're going to be a lot better. People sometimes don't learn from their mistakes, and they just keep digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper, and they never can find a shovel long enough to dig that hole deeper. And you want to bring them out of that hole. You want to make them feel that they're powerful and successful. And you do that as a sign behind you says, the best you. How can we get the best you out of everybody?
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of about asking other people what kind of their goals are and helping them get to there, or just having the conversation about how they can be better and trying to assist them in that process.
As a speaker, and I've given probably 4,000 speeches to businesses and groups and teachers and things. It's not about me. It's about them. What do they want to learn? What is it that they're interested in? So every time I have an opportunity to speak, I create a questionnaire that I ask the person leading the group to ask these questions. What are your goals today? What can I help you do with your objectives? And find out about them, and then create, from my experiences and my material, create a talk or a presentation that helps them. It's not about promoting me. It's about how can I use my experiences and my background to help them become better at what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you just said, you've given over probably 4,000 speeches to businesses and corporations and things of that nature. Is there like a common thing that a lot of those people who were leading these groups said that they needed? Like, is there a common thing that they like, we want you to speak about this, or we have questions about this, we need help with this?
It's amazing the number of groups I've spoken for, and they're not athletic groups, they're all business groups and teacher groups. They always use football expressions like goal to go and 1st and 10 and how do we do things better. And they're always interested in being better at what you do. So I've come from a background where being better at what you do makes you get to the Super Bowl. So how do you get to the Super Bowl? Well, there's 32 teams, and only 2 of them going to play in the Super Bowl. So how do you get it? So I wrote a book one time called It's the Will, Not the Skill. It's your will, not your skill. The skill is important, but all 32 teams and 53 players on every team, they all have the skill, or they wouldn't be in the NFL. But only 2 of those teams are going to make it. What's the difference? The difference is they have the will to do it better. So it's the will to win. It's the will to be achieved. It's the will to do something better. How can I not be satisfied with what I'm doing, but always learning about doing something better? That's what the will is all about.
So it was a lot of your talks about trying to figure out for these companies and these businesses and everybody involved with it about how they can kind of increase their level of will?
Exactly. If they will tell me what they're interested in and how they want to and what they want to achieve, I can help them understand how to do it. If they don't need me if they know how to do it. If they know how to do it and can do it and be successful, or if you're successful, how do you maintain that? How do you win the Super Bowl one year and then come into the next year and you want to win it again? You got to win it 2 years in a row. That's hard to do because everybody else wants to do the same things you've been doing, so they're all doing the same thing. So it's the difference of the little difference between the really strong will and those who are just half-hearted about it. The same thing happens in the business world. Business is very competitive. So if you want to be better at what you do, you want to be better than the next guy, you got to do it just a little bit better every time.
I like that a lot. So I'm really into habits myself and like specific things that people do on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, depending on whatever it is for that individual. Did you have any specific habits that you would maybe do prior to a game or prior to anything that was a big moment or prior to speaking or anything like that? Or maybe just on a daily basis, any most important habits that you had?
It may sound simple in explaining this, but there's a admiral named Admiral Bill McRaven, and he was the lead commander on the capture and the killing of Osama bin Laden. And he gave a speech one time, when you wake up in the morning, make your bed in the morning. Do the first thing right, because when you come home that night, you're getting into a bed that's made, a bed that you made. You did something right. So do the little things right. You can't do the big things right if you don't do the little things right. So pay attention to detail and do the little things right. Just in terms of maybe brushing your teeth in the morning or getting yourself ready. Don't do it haphazardly. Do it the best you can do. Just a little thing. It doesn't take a lot of effort. Just do it right. So he said, make your bed in the morning and you start your day right, and the rest of the things will go right. And then everything I had to do in terms of being a principal and adjusting to football, and I'd be at the school on Friday night and Saturday morning. I'd get on an airplane and fly across the country to referee a game. I'd have everything in order that I knew I had to, and maybe it's a little bit too compulsive, but I needed to do it right every time. So I do the same thing every time. And that really helped me in terms of my football thing as well as being a teacher.
I like it. Pay attention to those details. I like it a lot. Throughout your entire career, there's moments, there were probably highlights and moments that maybe weren't as big a highlights. Did you ever have anything that a moment, a call, or anything that you regretted throughout your referee tenure?
Every day. Every day something. You never know. You might get everything right, but you go back and you look at the film of a game or something, or you go back and you think about what you did at school the last day or the next day, and you think, I got to do that better. And see, don't beat yourself up. but think about how you can do it better, and get back and relax and have confidence in yourself. In the first book I wrote called Impartial Judgment, I dedicated it to my father, who passed away some years before. But I thought, because my father taught me to believe in yourself. When you see signs in the different stadiums now, we believe, believe. And it's a very simple word, but it's a very important word. Believe in yourself. When you have a failure, it's not a failure. It's just a setback. You're not dead. You just have a setback. How do you improve on a setback? If you want to. Now, if you don't want to, that's okay too. That's up to you. But you're not going to get any place in life if you don't care about your mistakes. Learn from mistakes and move on from there. Know the mistakes are going to happen. No mistakes are part of the learning process. So if you make a mistake, it's okay. Move on from there.
I think that's important that you noted that, maybe I regret things, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm just going to realize it's part of the process, and I'm just going to keep moving forward, because I think that is one of the biggest things that a lot of people struggle with is they have a failure, they make a mistake, and then they just sit there and dwell on it. And the recovery time takes that much longer because people just stick on the thing that they screwed up on.
I like the way you said that. That's good. Exactly the way you said that. That's exactly what you need to do. You don't dwell on a mistake. Move on. It's over. It's done. You can't correct it. And I use the expression, there are two important days in your life. The day you were born and the day you discover why. Why were you born? Why was I here? Why am I here? What am I going to do? What can I do for me and for other people? And for other people is a very important thing. When you're down and things aren't going well, if you'll get up and do something for somebody else, forget about your problem. Just go do something for somebody else. You'll find how good it makes you feel. It's just little things in life. If you help the little old lady across the street, or help somebody somebody dropped a bag of groceries or something, and you help and stop thinking, just little things like that. They reinforce the fact that you have a purpose in this life, and do what you think is right, and you'll end up doing the right thing more and more. But helping other people is very important in terms of overcoming any setback you may have.
I like that. So we just talked about, the negative things possibly in your career. Was there any maybe one particular game or one particular highlight of your career that might have been the biggest highlight or your favorite game?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there are several things. I worked a game between Green Bay and Baltimore Colts in Green Bay one time, and I was a field judge under the goalpost. And the kicker kicked a field goal, and it was snowing and wind was blowing in Green Bay, Wisconsin in December, as it usually does. And the ball was way above the crossbar, way above the post, and I had to call it good or bad, and I called it good. And Don Shula, to this day, won't forgive me for the fact that I missed the call, and we've had that good laugh about it over the time. I said, "Hey, Coach, you won 347 games. So win another one. You're not going to break anybody's record. You got the record." And so we've laughed about that over the years. So it was a mistake at the time. It was really important for the game. But as we went along, it became less important. And look at it that way. It's life. It's going to happen. You make mistakes are going to happen. And I've made more than one mistake. In fact, there was a game that I worked between Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys in Texas Stadium. And Roger Staubach was rolling out, and he fell to the ground, and I thought he was down, so I blew my whistle. But he had fumbled the ball, and I couldn't see it. And the Philadelphia Eagle player, Bill Bradley, picked up and ran the end zone. And I had to take the touchdown away from him. It was a very important time in the game. And I was the coach from Philadelphia Eagles at the time, a guy named Ed Kayak. And I walked over to Ed, and I looked him right in the face, just like I'm looking right at you in the face. And I said, "Ed, I kicked it. I was wrong. I blew it. I'm sorry. I can't take it away from you. I've got to take the score away. I can't correct the mistake I made." He told me some years later, he said, "You know that mistake you made in Dallas and Philadelphia?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "When you said you made a mistake, you disarmed me. I couldn't argue with you." I thought, that's the right thing to do. If I made a mistake, admit the mistake. Instead of trying to cover and say, well, see, I couldn't see this coach, I blew the whistle. No, don't alibi. Don't try to make it worse. Just say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, and move on. But that goes back to the belief that you're going to have in yourself. You're going to believe that you're a good official. You're going to believe that you're a good teacher. You're going to believe that you're a good principal. If you don't believe that, then when you have a mistake happen, you're trying to make excuses for why it went wrong. Don't worry about it. It happens to everybody.
I like that a lot. So it's really about taking ownership and responsibility for your mistakes. And one of the lessons that I've learned recently from somebody that I've actually had on the show was that confidence is born out of, or humility is born out of confidence. And that was what I first thought of when you said it, is like being able to own your mistakes and admit that to somebody takes a whole lot of confidence and takes that belief in yourself. And so for me, that all tied together when you were just saying that.
That's it. That's exactly it. Have confidence in yourself and know the mistakes are going to happen and you're going to be part of them. Yeah.
So you've had all these experiences. You've done a lot of different things. If somebody were to ask you about maybe 3 keys to a successful life, or the 3 most important lessons that you had to teach somebody, or that you have learned throughout your life, what are those maybe 3 keys to a successful life, or 3 lessons that you feel are the most important things that you've learned?
I think that we were talking about before, but let me just summarize it that way and say, first of all, believe in yourself. Believe that you can do the right thing, and then do the right thing. Hold yourself to a high level of integrity. Don't try to alibi out of things and get around things by lying or doing other things. Just be honest with yourself. So believe in yourself, have a high level of integrity, and then enjoy it. Life is to enjoy. It's not here as a trial of everything. To just enjoy what you do. You're going to have those trials, but if you're going to have those trials, then you're going to enjoy the fact that you're having those trials. So believe in yourself, have a high sense of integrity, and then I think enjoy it. But I think part of enjoy it too is having a faith of some kind, of belief in a higher power. And I don't want to get into all the things that way, but it's important that it gives you a purpose for life and a reason for living. Why are you here? And I'm here for a reason, and that's the reason that I'm going to do the best that I can.
I like it. So I'm sure you're around a decent amount of, when you're speaking to these businesses and stuff, you're around some younger individuals who are early on in their career, and you were early on in your career in the NFL. And you're probably around teachers who are early on in their career. If somebody had the chance to sit down with you, who is maybe in their early 20s, mid 20s, or maybe even early 30s, and after one of your talks, let's say, and they had 2 minutes to say, and they asked you, Jim, I want to start being more successful in my career. I want to become a leader in the company. I want to become a leader at this school. I want to be one of the top teachers. I want to become principal, all these things. What can I start doing now in order to increase the likelihood of my future success? What are maybe 2 things that you would tell them?
Isn't that what you and I are doing right now?
A little bit.
Talking about those things. So,
yeah.
So I would say it's just reiterating what I said. It's that belief in yourself, and that really comes, as they say, having a high level of integrity. Just do the right thing, and do the right thing every time. I'm very disappointed in what's going on in our government and people who are lying and they lie before Congress, they lie before the FBI, they're going to jail. I thought these were people I would look up to. These are supposed to be my leaders, and they're lying to these things. Don't do that. Don't just be honest in what you do. And maybe they've done some wrong thing, but as I say, when I made that mistake in the football field, I mean, I just said, I blew it. I was wrong, okay? And the coach said, hey, we all make mistakes. Forget about it. It's okay. You have the high sense of integrity. And again, as I mentioned, that faith that this is what you're here for, and you're going to make mistakes, but move on. Be ready to move on. And I think part of that has to do with forgiving. I think forgiving is there's a book out by a friend of mine. It's called Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? Why do bad things happen to good people? Well, they're going to happen. And they're going to happen to good people. And when they do, you just say, that's the way it is. I'm going to move on. I'm going to do better. I'm going to learn from it, learn from your mistakes. So those kind of things, the things that my dad taught me, and that I try to teach my kids, and work with the officials that I do, and work with the teachers that I have over the years.
So, you've talked a lot about believing in yourself and being able to not beat yourself up when you make mistakes. Forgive me if I say this wrong, but I think at the end of your voicemail message, do you say, and remember, be easy on yourself?
Yes. Well, right? No, I say be good to yourself.
Be good to yourself. That's what it is. Be good to yourself.
Be good to yourself. I've always said that. If you're good to yourself, then you're going to be good to other people. And if you beat yourself up, then you're going to beat other people up. One of the things that you need to teach if you were in a business, you teach the people who deal with the customers. Treat your employees right. Treat them as they're very, very important to you and they're important people, because then they're going to treat the customers right. If you beat up your employees, they're going to beat up their customers because that's what they've learned. That's their conditioning. And it's just like Pavlov and the dog. You've learned their response. If you beat them up for mistakes that they make, when a customer has a problem, they're going to beat the customer up. You want your customer to be good, treat your employees right.
So another thing that we had brought up in our phone conversation prior to this, it was a number of weeks back now, was I was saying how I'm just trying to figure things out in my life, and that's how a lot of people who are listening to my podcast just trying to figure life out. And then you mentioned I'm still trying to figure life out.
Absolutely. So I'm always trying to figure things out better.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That kind of will lead into my last question here. But before the last question, Jim, I first want to appreciate you coming on today. And I want to acknowledge you for your humility that you've been able to have throughout your life and throughout your career to admit your mistakes and to take ownership of those things and to never be complacent with things that you've done in the past, to always wanting to be better today than you were yesterday and always wanting to leave the games better than you found them. So I think that's really cool. And that's really the key to your sustained excellence throughout your career.
You summarized it very well, Nick. I appreciate what you're thinking about. You and I are a different age group. I mean, you're in the millennial group, and I'm in the, I was 90 a month ago. So I'm still trying to figure things out and get things right and do things better. And I always will. That's just the way I was born, and that's the way I believe. And if I can teach that to other people, I got to practice that myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a very admirable quality, that's for sure. So that leads into my last question. I always ask people the same question because I feel that becoming the best version of yourself is a constant journey. And like we already talked about, I think we're always chasing down that best version of ourselves. We're always trying to be better tomorrow than we were today. And that's, what you've talked about. You're always trying to learn. You're always trying to bring mentors around you that can teach you things that you couldn't teach yourself. So what I want to ask for you personally is if you could currently work on or do 3 things to get closer to the best version of yourself, what are those 3 things that you could currently do or 3 things you could currently work on?
I think if I could read more of things, reading is very, very important to me. I do read every day. I do writing every day. So I want to write better. I write a weekly blog. I have a thing called On the Tunney Side of Sports. It's on email, and people can get it. It's free. But I write about issues. I wrote about Tiger Woods this week and how he overcame. And let me use that as an example. Tiger came onto the scene of being a golfer, very brash and very arrogant, and I'm going to kick your butt type of an attitude. He's not that way anymore. He's gone through personal and physical transgressions that have made him. And what he said this time when he won the Masters in April, he said, if it wasn't for my family being here, and my son Charlie and my daughter Sam, and the support they've given me, I would never made it. That's a very humility type of expression from a guy like Tiger, who looked like he had the world together. He has all the money he'll ever need, but the money didn't save him, and now he's become a really more humane person. And I think that family thing is very, very important. So I would think in my time, I want to do more for my family than I can do possibly in the next few years. I don't know how many more years I'll be alive, but I want to do something every day. I talk to I've got 4 children, and Linda and I have 9 grandchildren, We like to do something for them all the time. So I talk to somebody like that every day. My mom and my dad are passed away, but my sisters and my brother are still here, so I can talk to them. Those kind of connections are very, very important, people. And I encourage people to continue to make connections, because as you get to be at my age, at 90, there's not a lot of your friends that are still here. You're outliving them all. That's the good news. The bad news is you don't have anybody to talk to anymore. So keep connection with your family and your friends, and it keeps you into their lives and see what you can do for them. And that's a goal that I have for my life now.
Well, Jim, I know everybody's going to really enjoy this episode. Where can people find more about, you've talked about a couple of books. It's The Will, Not the Skill, Impartial Judgment, and all that good stuff. You've got your website, right? JimTunney.com.
Yes. And email is jim@jimtunney.com. And they can email me. And a weekly blog is called onthetonneysideofsports.com. And they can get that. And I wrote about Tiger last week. This week coming up, I'm writing about the Kentucky Derby and the problem that we had with the Kentucky Derby and the concerns that are happening. So it's always something current that I'm writing about, and it's something that people can learn from. And I'm learning as I'm writing, and so they learn from that too.
Well, that's really cool. I appreciate your time today, Jim.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's great to see you, and great to I like your attitude, I like what you're doing, and I like the fact that you're always out there learning and leaving this podcast better than you found it. I like that.
There you go.
Good to see you. Thanks, Dick.